Hey everyone, it's Haley. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the themes that I see kind of surrounding or exemplifying the energy of the upcoming Capricorn full moon, which is going to come through on the 3rd of July. And this lunation feels pretty interesting. And so the full moon is going to happen when the sun at 11 degrees of Cancer opposes the moon at 11 degrees of Capricorn. And this chart has a Cancer rising, and so the chart ruler is going to be the moon in Capricorn in the 7th house. And so in this video, I'm just going to talk about some of the, again, the planetary aspects characterizing this full moon in Capricorn, and then I'm also going to pull some tarot cards, do some shuffling, and then see what cards want to come out to get some more details around some of the archetypes, some imagery, some symbolism for this full moon to kind of make it more understandable to us. So first, the sun in Cancer is going to be conjunct Mercury. So Mercury has just come out of its cazimi, where it's at the heart of the sun. And this kind of points to, especially in the first house of self and kind of identity, some sort of emerging revelation around ourselves, how we want to maybe live our lives. We have to be careful. I remember another astrologer, Jessica Lanyadoo, talks a lot about how Mercury, Sun, and Cancer can be kind of clannish, kind of protective, insular energy of kind of like merging our identity, our like core self with what we think and our ideas. And so being kind of cautious, especially because this full moon is happening across the 1st and the 7th house axis. We can kind of think of those classic full moon kind of pressure cooker drama in relationships and relationality with others, and kind of feeling like we really need to pull up these walls to protect ourselves against maybe we perceive to be this moon in Capricorn, this kind of authoritarian, kind of external policing authority, kind of putting a dampening or kind of pushing down on our ability to express ourselves and what we think, and especially because Saturn in the sign of Pisces is going to be trining the moon, kind of in this 9th house. Saturn's in the 9th house, kind of reinforcing and emerging. There's kind of a theme of like spirituality, an emerging kind of, not necessarily religion, but a new outlook, a new philosophy of self and how we perceive the world. I'm gonna start shuffling the cards. And so just kind of this kind of themes around kind of creating this ideal, kind of a little bit fantastical world that we want to create to be our realities, and then kind of some external force kind of checking that, kind of hitting that wall of like kind of feeling frustrated with an authority figure potentially. With Cancer and Capricorn, that axis deals a lot with authority, a lot with themes around family, themes around, because the parents are kind of our first authority figures. So kind of family, authority, things like that. We also have a really interesting, there's also some themes around, like wealth, possessions, kind of wanting to create sort of, we might be a little bit cautious if we're kind of starting to dream about this like kind of fantastical personal world, and being kind of cautious of the underlying kind of like ego-based desires. Not that we can't desire physical things, obviously, but there could be kind of just like flamboyant displays of wealth with Venus and Mars in Leo, and Venus is gonna have a retrograde in Leo this summer, in the 2nd house, squaring Uranus. So kind of unexpected new directions, maybe some financial undertakings, investments that people are making that are just kind of shocking. I'm gonna pull some cards. Okay. Yeah, it feels very like we're reaching very far for this one for some reason. Like there's a lot of maybe not very grounded, kind of expanded or kind of inflated. Inflation is for some reason a word that's coming to mind. Inflated perceptions about ourselves. Let's see. What are some messages around this full moon in Capricorn? Okay. Yeah, I think we should be aware of the presence of dissatisfaction in our lives. And I think this has been a theme that I've talked about for the past few videos around this kind of like Four of Cups, feeling dissatisfied with what we have and feeling like we need to reach for something more, and kind of really living for the future, I think is something that we should be aware of. And kind of, there's almost this kind of mental imagery that's coming, that's kind of like building this really safe, insular little world that we can kind of use spiritual or new agey language to uphold, like protecting our peace and all these things, which are really valuable. But we should be aware of kind of the underlying defense mechanisms and safety-based actions based off of old wounds or old traumas that are kind of leading us to kind of want to think that the way to the future that feels good to us needs to be creating this really insular, you know, Sun, Mercury, and Cancer, like very small homes. We should be kind of aware of if our dreams for the future and our kind of visions are ultimately, I've heard people talk about this in terms of relationships, but is it making our lives bigger ultimately, or is it making it smaller? And this is kind of, I think of that when I think of this card of this person kind of with their eyes downcast, really kind of this kind of navel gazing, like we could be really kind of wrapped up in a lot of self narratives and kind of feeling at odds with everyone around us and feeling like everything and everyone is colluding to sort of suppress our, you know, ego will energies. Let's see. Again, with the Hierophant, this kind of Capricornian old paradigm of authority and feeling like, you know, this kind of reinforcement of hierarchy. We have Pluto again, retrograding back through the energetic degree of Capricorn, kind of feeling like our intuition, our spiritual knowing is kind of maybe at odds with people or structures or authorities around us. And with Mercury kind of giving that a voice of like the Page of Swords in the reversed position of kind of like feeling like we need to campaign or put our stake in the ground and make ourselves known, but maybe not having all the details yet. And so it's just kind of like, this is where these weird like fights could come up where we're kind of defending something that we can't really articulate what we're defending, but there's just the sense of being opposed by this like wall, this person that you just kind of want to shake off and kind of this kind of energy of rebellion as well. Let's see. Yeah, the rebirth of old ideas to Capricorn and Cancer. This can deal a lot with authority, tradition, kind of things that are kind of older, some people might consider outmoded or outdated. Let's see, with the Eight of Swords in the reversed position, yeah, this like Uranian kind of urge to break free of things, like wherever we feel like there's these blindfolds or strictures or being bound in any way, there's kind of a repulsion to that and kind of a realization of how constructed that is and how it could be different, and kind of urging this desire to kind of shake all of that off. With the Wheel of Fortune kind of turning over a new leaf, a new cycle, kind of beginning something afresh with this kind of like Jupiter and Neptunian kind of spiritual, otherworldly, transcendent dimensions of how we want to show up in some aspect of our lives. So I'm gonna see if one more card wants to come out so I can kind of tie this together for us. But feel free to comment below if you're noticing any themes in your life around this Capricorn full moon. And I will say, because, you know, as the moon is in Capricorn, the ruler of the sign of Capricorn will be the planet Saturn, which is in Pisces. So again, this kind of like interest in spiritual topics. We might be seeing that in the collective around renewed interests in alternative ways of knowing, which at this point is kind of mainstream. At some point, it's kind of like the tradition is kind of more marginal because so many people are having similar views about how they want to be living their lives. Is there one last message around this Capricorn full moon? Thank you. The King of Cups. Okay, this feels very Saturn and Pisces to me, of kind of getting really clear on an emotional inner direction, kind of this like solid place where kind of the waves can come and go, but this figure is just kind of firmly planted, and it's kind of like the waves of our lives come and go, as chaos comes and goes. The value of holding fast to some inner centeredness, some kind of being able to see in the dark, so to speak, being getting, a lot of times we feel like our intuition or intuitive knowing needs to be really externalized and concrete in the same ways that kind of law is, but being able to kind of have more of a quiet knowing, and not necessarily needing to defend or kind of fight on a verbal level about what we think, and kind of make sure that what we think everyone else is on the same page with, and kind of, noticing this quality of dissatisfaction, pining, constructing, dreaming, investing, putting a lot of resources into a future that is ultimately a product of our wounding, because Chiron is also at the midheaven of this chart in Aries, so kind of this like toxic individualism energy kind of theme around the ways that we build up really high walls and really create really beautiful gardens that only we can enjoy because we think that that's what safety is, and kind of being cautious of kind of the new agey spiritual ideology that really emphasizes a focus on the self, which is valuable, but kind of being cautious or conscious of the tendency to kind of take that too far and kind of be constructing, it's almost like constructing a future you're not seeing the whole picture, you're literally seeing the ground in front of you, and so maybe waiting for a little bit of the details to be filled in throughout the next lunar cycle until we build to the next full moon, which is going to be a full moon in the sign of Aquarius, which maybe will have more of a kind of expanded, filled out vision for how we want to move forward. So I hope this video was helpful, thought-provoking. If anything resonated, feel free to let me know. If you'd like to book a natal chart reading with me where we kind of dive into the strengths, the weaknesses, the lessons, the themes, the patterns that might emerge in your lifetime given the natal blueprint of your birth chart, feel free to reach out to me at projectvenusrising, all lowercase, @gmail.com, and we'll find a session, a time that works for you. And so I hope you have a beautiful day.